There are quite a number of few things I want to actually put into perspective, because when news are coming left, right, and center during the day, we get to prioritize what is actually urgent at that moment in time, and taking into consideration that at the moment I'm still alone, but hopefully in some few days or so to come, or years, whichever, we will see it necessary. This may be expanded into more than actually this. So, at the center of ZANU PF crisis at the moment, I think you'll be misunderstanding the politics of Zimbabwe if you can't place Professor Jonathan Moyo. Now, how was this revealed? This has been revealed through information that was put out by retired General Tshabangu, and further, this was revealed by the very same leakage that was done by the Mnangagwa faction, especially the response of Zambi, which is already out there in the public, circulating on social media. Greetings and welcome on your lovely channel, the Tlonipani Global News. If you are watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe button, so that next time when we beam live, you become the very first one to watch us. So now, Chiwenga's dossier made it quite clear that Jonathan Moyo was the brains behind 2030. In fact, brains behind this time around 2035, through a document that the Parliament of Zimbabwe is in possession of. Now, we thought, Chiwenga exposed something we did not get an idea that also Professor Jonathan Moyo was the brains behind Sengezo Tshabangu. Now, who made it quite clear? It is the response of Zambi. Now, one thing I can tell, especially about the faction of Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, it is very, very poor at processing issues. I think what was revealed by especially Zambi, the response of Zambi, 25 pages response that is out there on the public domain, it has done more harm to the faction of Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa and even ZANU PF itself than any other document. On retired General Tshabangu was speaking about more of corruption that is being carried out and also encouraging. In fact, it was a way of alerting Mnangagwa that you have diverted from the actually plans of Operation Restore Legacy. That was it. But the response of Zambi, of which I strongly believe it is the response of Mnangagwa, as well as Mnangagwa Cabal and his bedroom all together, and they may have been given that template also by Professor Jonathan Moyo. Now they miscalculated by actually revealing that Sengezo Tshabangu is the one who brought that document working with the opposition. We know and understand Sengezo Tshabangu. He doesn't have the capacity and the capability to produce the said document. And if you look, Professor Jonathan Moyo, days before this document leaked, he posted a very, very lengthy statement justifying why the 2030 actually a term extension should be done, and also giving directives on how it can be done with the Constitution of 2013, actually seemingly crushing all views that have been put in the public domain by lawyers in Zimbabwe to indicate that it is practically impossible for the 2030 term extension to be implemented. And that on its own, in the back of my mind, pointed out clearly that Professor Jonathan Moyo is the brains behind the creation of Sengezo Tshabangu. Remember, during the CCC existence, when Nelson Chamisa was in charge, there was a fallout He wanted to help Nelson Chamisa in terms of training polling agents, and it seems that did not go well with Nelson Chamisa. He refused Professor Jonathan Moyo to actually be in charge of that training, and from then Professor Jonathan Moyo became an enemy with Nelson Chamisa, started to decampaign Nelson Chamisa on social media, and boom, ZANU PF propaganda media was now using the statements which were put on social media by Professor Jonathan Moyo. He also began to poke loopholes into the strategic ambiguity, a policy that was actually adopted by Nelson Chamisa, and raised the loopholes that were manipulated by an individual called Sengezo Tshabangu. And do you think Professor Jonathan Moyo is a prophet? No, he is not a prophet. Is he a political strategist? He may be to some certain degree, and that is why I am of the firm opinion that he is the brains behind the creation of Sengezo Tshabangu, and also totally dismantling the opposition in order to make it possible for Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa to face retired General Chiwenga head on. And remember, Professor Jonathan Moyo and Mnangagwa, they are sworn enemies. Mnangagwa, of course, might have paid monies to Professor Jonathan Moyo to assist him with 2030 term extension. Remember, Robert Mugabe was once an enemy with Professor Jonathan Moyo. And when things were getting, were getting bad, Professor Jonathan Moyo had to be called back to ZANU PF. He came and assisted ZANU PF. And this time around, looking at what he has said about Mnangagwa and him putting it publicly that Mnangagwa is not a forgiving man, do you think that he was helping him with Sengezo Tshabangu with the purpose of actually Mnangagwa to win the plot at the end of the day? I don't think so. What Professor Jonathan Moyo did, and he did it so cunningly, was to crush the opposition. Obviously outside, giving directives to Mnangagwa on how to do it through Sengezo Tshabangu. He successfully did it. And now Mnangagwa was left with retired General Chiwenga. That is when a factionalism of ZANU PF started to surface, and surface so strongly. To an extent that it was no longer hidden, because the absence of politics left a vacuum, because when there was opposition, ZANU PF would cover its programs that were ongoing within, and all of them, they would be focusing on trying to crush the opposition, because equally so, retired General Chiwenga would love to lead and also beat opposition, and also Mnangagwa would love, if ever he survives, to remain in power. They are big, this ZANU PF, but all of them, they want also to be in charge of this same ZANU PF. I'm thinking here this time around, Professor Jonathan Moyo may have played Emerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, and Mnangagwa did not see this coming. At the moment, I think what is happening, the 2030 term extension, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very, very chaotic program. There is chaos in ZANU PF, left, right, and center, and we are in the midst of a chaos which we don't know how things will unfold going forward. But it's a very, very chaotic situation that has been created by which I believe Professor Jonathan Moyo, and thinking that he is, Mnangagwa thinking that he is being helped, but Jonathan Moyo understanding very, very well that this will prompt a reaction, and it is prompted a reaction. Now, does Professor Jonathan Moyo survive in the future politics of Zimbabwe? I doubt. obviously always get around, he always get away with this cunning nature of actually fighting with certain individuals and getting into bed with them so quickly. Whoever thought that Professor Jonathan Moyo at one point will have his books being read by Nelson Chamisa and ZANU PF? We never thought so, but it did happen. Whoever thought that Professor Jonathan Moyo would have one of his documents also causing conflict within the Parliament of Zimbabwe? No one would have thought that, but it did happen. Look at the confusion it is causing at the moment. He is using his political science theories and implementing them very, very well and accurately. In his back of the mind, he has a target. And I'm thinking that although people may actually don't like Professor Jonathan Moyo, but in the back of his mind, he has actually created the needed chaos that he has also to revenge to Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa has actually betrayed him twice. So he has to also revenge him. And how does he do so? He does it by pretending to be helping him, yet destroying him. So the concept of destroying ZANU PF within being applied by Professor Jonathan Moyo. I never thought I would actually put things this way, but this is what came into my mind following exposés by both the dossier from retired General Chiwenga, as well as also the response by Zambi. So today is going to be a busy day. Few hours, it's no longer even now, we are no longer counting even 24 hours. Now, tomorrow during this time, I'm sure signs will be showing that something is obtaining on ground. There are reports already that some movements are seen on ground, but remember, we don't want to do speculation. When we bring it here, it will be a well actually thought news, and we will be knowing that we can defend ourselves, except maybe falling trap for fake news. We have one or two, because everyone, these days with AI, they can produce an almost they can produce an almost next to the truth information. So but otherwise we will be verifying information. There is a lot that I have heard, the information that I'm having at the moment, but I have to thought process it before I give it to you. Thank you very much for watching us. If you are watching us for the very first time, please do remember to press the red or black subscribe